Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're so glad to be here with you as we have R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection, where we are going to get really into a lot of weird, strange things. Time to turn up the woo to kick off 2025. Let's start it off by saying hello to each and every one of you. Race fan in the gold medal position, in the studio with a silver kitty caddywhack with a bronze medal tonight. Hi there, Road Flare. And Wallet Moth, how you doing? Good to see you. Baywatcher, just another guy named Harry. And who else do we have? Operation Shutdown. Laura Lobbs. Scrub-a-dub-dub is here. Scrub-a-dub-dub will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Radio Wendigo, how's it going from Arizona? Karen in the Woo Train. Little Timmy James. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. Fast Hemi, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Millennium, my man. Nice to have you all here. Mel WD40 is here, lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want any of that rigidness. It doesn't feel good. So Mel's lubing us up as we speak. Necessary Dialogue, good to have you. Thomas Rock, thanks for coming on in. Hello, Deanna Ann. Number 12 in your program tonight, starting at center ice from Stockholm, Sweden. Lars Jansson. There he is. Purple-haired Pixie Lara. How are you? Purple-haired Pixie Lara will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Hippie Deidre, how's it going? Good to have you here. Deborah Rooney, you're in early. Good to have you here. Robert Lamoth, Frankie B, Jessica S. Algaray over on Twitch, he literally bench pressed 585 pounds 37 times to warm up for our Keith Andrews tonight. Guy is jacked. He's ready for tonight. That's the truth. Jay Truthseeker, Alien Critter, Gory Tiger, nice to have you all here as we continue on with our roll call. Matthew Goodka, Eternity Eternal, and Marty Burback, good to have you here as well. Joey Glow, Yennefer with a soft J. Good to see you both. What in Tarnation has returned for the second night in a row. Murals BW 2 nights in a row. Welcome. And yes, I actually pay attention to that, by the way. Jeremy Jones, good to see you. The Andromedan, how's it going? Fishing and Bigfooting, welcome to SOR Chat. Conversations with Spirit. The Ferret, nice to see you both. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Kimberly Burgess, nice to have you here. As we continue on with our roll call, there's Destiny Rocks. If you wave to her, she always waves back. Watch. There you go. There you go. She's waving right now as we speak. Here we go. Richard Minnick, nice to see you. Cat's Tongue, what's happening? Walter Kochabinski, good to have you here as well. Oh. We're done roll call already. Boo the Beagle. There is Boo the Beagle. Little pat on the head for the beagle. I love beagles, by the way. Absolutely love beagles. Mr. Melted, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for coming on in. Let's start the radio side. Richard, thank you for kicking off that super chat tonight. We really appreciate your love and support, Richard. Thank you very, very much. All right. So let's go here. I've got a new way of doing this. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. And tonight we are going to have R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection come on in and talk all things woo about ETs and audience participation. We are in roll call on our YouTube channel right now. So we next say thank you to Walter for a great super chat. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Walter, thank you. Carol Amerio, welcome back. How are you? Hope you're having a good night. Remember, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. As well, you could shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out and get some stuff. I got some good stuff up there. Trust me on that one. Go look. Do me a favor. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of pages for you. Rock out and bumble read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of awesomeness tonight. First time in 2025. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continues here as we start year number 9 or 10 with Keith. It's going to be a great, great time, and we are going to get into that a little bit later. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller has another spooky story for us. Follow that up. We have Lee Strauss, Jackie Harmon. We're going to get into what's happening in Las Vegas with the dude who went and blew himself up there. We're going to talk about that later on in the show in hour number 3. But first, one of our most popular guests is returning for this year, R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. Now, this is a show that is a little bit different than every other show we do because we encourage audience participation from our YouTube chat, our Twitch chat, and on X to come in with questions and ask Keith everything to do with extraterrestrial contact, UFOs, alien species, and everything in between. Now, Keith is not a researcher. He doesn't know the names of the players in the field. He doesn't care. What he does care about is people who have had their own contact and cannot explain what is happening to them. Keith is that friendly voice who's going to sit there and say, I believe you. And let me tell you why. This is what we love about him. R Keith Andrews, welcome to Spaced Out Radio in 2025. How you doing, my friend?
Well, it's been an interesting end of the year and even better start to one. But really happy to be back again. We are going to have to get somebody to go back through your archives and find out when our first show was. Primarily because I'm nosy.
Oh, me too, my man. Me too. I would like to know that as well, actually. I think we're going on. I know I had you on within my first year.
Yeah.
I knew that. And So I believe this will be year number 10 for you as we start year number 11. Like, I think you came in about, 6 months into this program.
That's what I seem to recall. I just don't recall. I mean, clearly, well, we just passed 10 years. What was it, in December or in November of last year?
November 30th. November 30th was our 10th anniversary. So that works out well. That works out.
I keep thinking we were somewhere between March and May when I first came on. But the flack you had to deal with when I first hit the air was just insane in my eyes.
No, it's been a great relationship, and I'm going to tell you, Keith, I've met a lot of people in this field. I really have, but I don't think there are many, and I mean this with all due respect to everyone else. I don't think there are many people as nice as you as I've met in this field, and you know what? I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And to doing this interview with you again, because each and every week or each and every month that we have you on, it's always different. It's always about, something that we don't really know. And
it's always, we've tried planning it. Like you and I have tried going, oh, we're going to cover this today. Almost invariably, you take that whole idea and you just ball it up and throw it over your shoulder and figure out where it went.
Now, Keith, we're going to get this right off the bat here because, we have a lot of new listeners listening in recently, and they may not have heard you before and your knowledge of all of this. Now, you are a lifelong ET contactee. You are somebody who has been downloaded millions of terabytes of information about ETs, the species, the races, who's visiting the planet, which ships they fly. How did you gain all of this for people who may not know you?
Well, my first run-in, I first ran into what I call the Council of 12, which many of you have heard about. I did that on the day I was born. You got to realize that my life started off in science fiction land. Because when I was born, to start with, I was born from what I've been told, mottled green and black. Right. Ended up in the incubator. And I remember my trip down the birth canal and the whole journey into the incubator. I just didn't like it. So I bailed. And I I literally astral traveled to the point of flatlining in the incubator, where when I got out, I ran into the Council of 12 and it went downhill or uphill from that point. Can't tell you which way, whether we want to call it down or up, but I've had, I started off with abductions from I started off with being abducted by the Talon, which are an ant-like race. And then the long and the short of it was I ended up dealing with the Sasquatchians, who came in and saved my bacon more than once. Sasquatchians are your reptilians that are 7.5 to 8.5 feet tall. Very militaristic, very honor bound. They're the ones that I've had the most contact with. And it's just been one after the other. I mean, I've got right now documented something in excess of 100 races. And yeah, the last 2 years has been a nightmare, but I am actually closing in on finishing it. I'm finishing the books off.
Keith, for you, it's been a life of high strangeness, which I think many of us can from the outside say, wow, this is not normal. This is not, very easy to understand what you talk about, because you talk so matter-of-factly about this. You get a lot of questions about where's your proof, where's your evidence, and I know you're sick of those questions as well, after having to answer them so many times. But for you, as somebody who is engulfed in this on a daily basis, Do you ever feel that you got ripped off as a child and as an adult to really experience life because of this way you grew up?
In a lot of ways, the answer is yes. I mean, I was raised in a very logic-based family, and with that in mind, it became a problem. Like I still to this day do not connect with people properly. I mean, certainly I can connect with the people in this chat room, but the reality is I see so many people that are in mainstream, the big name players, and I'm looking at them going, why are you missing the obvious? There are so many people talking about the aliens are coming, they're going to invade us, they're going to reveal themselves. They've been here longer than man has. They're not about to show themselves. And as far as the answer to the other question, for those of you that are still going to sit there going, where's your proof? Now, let me ask you this. Can any one of you from where you are right now absolutely prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that New York City actually exists? I mean, certainly you can show pictures, you can talk about it. People say, hey, I've gone through, I've been there, done that. But is there any way you can actually prove beyond a shadow of a doubt from where you are that New York City itself actually exists? No matter how many witnesses you have, and this is why I tell people, look, if you feel it's been happening, as it was put to me, treat it as though it has, but keep an eye open for that one piece of information that derails the whole 9 yards, because it may or may not exist. I mean, my mom told me herself, the only reason she believed what I told her was because I always give the same answer to the same question. She says, even when we tried to coerce you to change your story, you refused to change word one. Can I prove it? Not a prayer. Okay. Can I tell you it's happening and that what people are going through has a rational explanation without a viable threat? The answer is absolutely yeah. In most cases, sometimes people get hurt, absolutely. But let's face it, what's happening to humans is it's the same thing that humans are doing to fish, birds, mammals, where they literally, in the animal sense, they are literally abducting these people, tagging them, doing blood work, doing whatever sample taking they require, and putting them back, hopefully feeling somewhat normal. This is an ongoing thing. Whatever race we're talking about, whatever species we're talking about, we literally are looking at simply different people in a different body. And I'm certainly not the one that can sit here and tell you, oh, you didn't go through that. Way too often, even in the mainstream UFO community, I hear people come up to well-known individuals going, this is what I went through. And these well-known individuals, and no, I'm not giving you names, scrap that. But these well-known people will look at them and go, oh, you're just saying that to get a little bit of recognition. You're trying to get your 5 minutes of fame. I'm telling you, people that have been abducted have no interest in the fame. They really don't. On the whole, it's like, would you mind leaving me alone and let me have a normal life?
Have
for
you been
me, this
able to have
is
a normal
normal.
life? Have you been able to have a normal life?
Oh, heavens no. Not at all. I mean, the reality is technology and I don't get along with Terran technology. And yet, I can understand off-world technology without a problem. I just cannot do the math to tell you how it works. Let's face it, I took grade 11 math and that was where it ended.
I know you have personally stunned, because I've seen it and I've talked to people about it. People with vast educations in this field who you've had conversations with, and I've talked to them about you, and they have literally told me there's no way that you should know this. There's no way that you should. Either you are pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and you're just a bookworm who studies absolutely everything, or you've got your information from elsewhere. I mean, that's really the case in point of everything, Keith. And the one thing that I love bragging about, being not only a radio host but a friend as well, is I love bragging about the fact that you have this incredible knowledge that you didn't go to school for. You didn't go to university to study scientists or energy or quantum healing or whatever. It just all came to you.
Exactly. I wake up with the information, or somebody will say something and it'll trigger the information. Somebody sent me a photograph of a piece of equipment that they're in the process of building, because it was downloaded to them. Right. And the best I can tell you is it looks like a modified vacuum cleaner, an old canister vacuum cleaner. That's not what it was. But all he did was send me a picture of it and goes, "What is it? Do you have any idea what this is?" I said, "Yeah, this is what it is." I told him what the name was. And he says, "I can't get any reading." I said, "Check the magnetosphere. And he goes, "Why would I do that? I'm looking for electric." I said, "It's not electric." So he run a whole series of tests using electromagnetic scanners. He comes back to me and goes, "What? Where did that information come from?" I said, "It's written right there in the template you sent me. In the photo, it's like right there. It's part of something bigger." But can I tell you how I came up with it? Not in a way that's going to make much sense. I took a look at the picture. I knew what it was. I mean, there was a radio show I was listening in on. I was just in the chat room, or I was listening into another podcast, and somebody asked, why is the guy that they were talking to had said he was an expert in alien technology. And I'll never forget the reaction I got out of it, because they asked, the people asked, why is it that we can see the small ships, but nobody seems to be able to see the motherships? And the guy come back after 20 seconds of absolutely dead air, and he goes, "I don't know." Well, I'm sitting in the chat room and I'm thinking, this was a rational question. They deserve an answer. So I just typed into the chat room. I said, well, once you understand the oscillator densification of the tri-transpacial equipolarity, it's really quite simple. But take the fractal inversion into consideration to slow the system down. Long story short, turned out the woman that was asking me had a master's in rocketry and astrophysics. And she said she could follow what I was saying, but they had barely touched even the concepts in her fourth term. And this has just been normal for me. I mean, one of the funniest ones I had was when I got the phone call from you regarding your, shall we say, uninvited company. Although I think they were invited.
Were they invited? Was Carl invited?
Well, in a manner of speaking, because of the work you were already doing, you got the one thing he wasn't supposed to have. You got a hold of his curiosity. And yeah, he ended up in trouble for that, but aliens are simply another person in a different body. That's all. And some of them have curiosity. You've got the whole array of people. But yeah, I mean, he was a lot of fun. And I know that one's got to be a memory on your end.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I think even though part one of Carl was interesting. And for people who haven't heard the story, back in 2015, I had an alien show up at my window while I was broadcasting this show. And I nicknamed him Carl. And a couple of years later, he was in my yard. I never saw him, but I heard him. And that was kind of trippy. Kind of trippy indeed. Keith, before we get to audience questions, we're going to take audience questions at the next half hour here. But do you feel that all of us are connected one way or another, or do you feel that this type of empowerment is for special people only?
No. Everybody that is in existence, be they corporeal or non-corporeal, are connected. We all have the same capacity. Okay. It's just most people are taught to ignore it. I just failed that lesson entirely. But no, everybody, quite literally, and this, I'm going to steal this as a statement that somebody made centuries back. Literally speaking, all that I do, you can do. And I'm paraphrasing that. The actual phrase is all that I do, thou shalt do, and more. Meaning everything I do, you can do. Just most of you won't believe it.
Why won't we believe it?
Well, because you've been taught it's impossible. Let's face it, aliens don't exist. Despite the fact that a decade back, it was assessed that 62% of Americans believed that aliens were already here. And that seems to be pretty much a global context.
That's very true. Are we prepared for contact?
Well, a little late for the preparation. We've already had it. But the reality is, are we prepared for, if you will, a Star Wars cantina scenario? Not even functionally close. I mean, let's face it. People still get hung up on skin color. Can you picture what's going to happen if you see a hedopod that stands 15 feet tall walking down the street? A hedopod, by the way, is a 7-legged individual.
It's a lot of legs.
Yeah, exactly. But
very,
humans
very
on the whole
expensive.
not
They just need to play hockey. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, then they just sit down on the floor, put all 7 legs out. Nobody's getting by them.
Do you think
in
then,
my opinion, humans are not ready.
Okay. Do you think then, if you feel humans are not ready, that we have to wait for the younger generations that seem more accepting to life outside the stars? Or
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you watch the younger generations right now, politely put, they are fracturing society's outlook on self. They're not drawing humans together. They're driving them apart. This is not boding well for getting along with new races. It's literally, Dave, it's literally people in my age bracket and your age bracket that have the best shot at helping people accept that these other things are real and are not a viable threat.
Yet many out there will say that the viable threat is the ones who take us, the ones who are continually taking us without our consent.
Absolutely. And what I mean by that is absolutely that's what they're saying is the threat. But think of it this way. You've got people that are coming from literally light years away. These people can materialize on the ground. I've seen it done. And so have many other witnesses where people just all of a sudden materialize, just kind of like the Star Wars transporter. Okay. But understand, with the technology they've got, there is a very simple little problem. We know technology on Earth is susceptible to an EMP pulse.
And on that note, R Keith Andrews, when we return on Spaced Out Radio with our good friend Keith, we'll get to audience questions. See where this goes. We're going to have some fun with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection coming up right after this. All right, Keith, we're clear.
Okie doke.
Hi, Choosy Heretics. How are you? Who else snuck in here? Mike Rivers is here. Tip the cap. Mike Rivers, tip the cap. Got some good questions tonight. Good questions.
I'm not going to touch the ones that are in the chat room. Rest assured on that one.
Yes,
I mean, I will
you.
when you bring them up.
Want to say a big thank you to Human Carl in the chat room, who literally, brought attention to the fact that, we have to call him Human Carl because we don't want to misconstrue him with Alien Carl. So we appreciate that. Hi, Chris. Teen, how you doing? Mm-hmm. Good question so far.
Oh yeah.
Lining.
And I haven't seen any that I won't answer. I've seen a couple of comments I'm looking at going, well, I could respond to that, but why would I bother?
Warden Dragon, how are you? Oh, it's the stunning Jessica Lee. Look at that. She's back. She's back, people. Jessica Lee.
Yeah, I can tell there's a lot of new people here. We're getting questions that I haven't seen in years. Which is great.
Years. All right.
Yeah, sometimes like these questions you see coming through here, Dave, about what I like in the way of certain things. The easy ones, or if you will, the, shall we say, non-complicated ones, I don't mind answering. There are some people have asked some questions, as you well know. They'll go, I want to know what this is about you. Well, carry on wanting.
Little Timmy James, no, I'm not feeling better, buddy, because I had to move a lot of snow today. So, we don't want that. Let's hide that one for now. So, yeah, I had a workout today. By the way, little Timmy James. All right, Keith, we got just over about 90 seconds here.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Yeah, I've been really lucky. We've had 2 days of snow here. The snow lasted less than 24 hours, sometimes less than 6. I liked it.
It's supposed to snow again here tonight. It's -5 Celsius right now with light snow. I don't know if it's started yet or not, but we've got about 3 inches in the last 24 hours, which is nice.
Yeah, that's why I live down here. You know, I don't think we've gotten 3 inches all year. Which, I'm terribly heartbroken about that. Yeah, according to the weather report here, the weather forecast here, we should get snow maybe on Sunday. And then we don't see anything until who knows when. We only get a 10-day forecast here.
All right, we got 10 seconds. Thank you to Richard, Walter, Jeff, and Area 53 for the great super chats. Really appreciate the love. And we're going to get going here right now. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us as we get into the weird world of woo with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection, which happens near the beginning of each and every month. And this is Keith going on his 10th year as a guest on this show. And we love him for it. So thank you very much, Keith, for being here.
Oh, no problem. And thanks so much for having me. I love the response that we get here. The questions are phenomenal.
Well, we're going to start off with the questions here right now, if you don't mind. Let's start off with Mr. Melton. What kind of snowblower are you rocking, Dave? I got a Mastercraft with a 30-inch auger on it. It's a big one. It's not running right now. I got to get little Timmy James over to help me fix it, but not enough snow yet for the snowblower. But yeah, when it's moving, man, it's rocking. It's got heated hand grips, headlight. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I love my snowblower, really do. And you ready for the questions, Keith?
Fire away.
Let's start off with Resonate. What is the alien selection criteria? Why choose one person over another?
The best I can tell you is it literally depends on the alien and on whatever it is they're researching. They may be looking for a blood type. They may be looking for a nucleoid type. Might be a physical configuration. Maybe a question of be it a handicap or a hiccup in genetic evolution. Or they might be looking into literally the migratory pattern of humans. And the variations are incredible. I don't mind the question by any means, but it's like asking what are human scientists researching? It's that broad of a question.
But I think it's an honest question, though.
And absolutely.
I like this, but like Keith, when I started having my experiences, I don't believe I had experiences in childhood. I don't recall any experiences in childhood, but I sure remember my experiences that started at 40.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the misconception, and I've seen people say, if you're being abducted now, you're being abducted as a child. This is not always the case. As a matter of fact, in fairness, it's seldom the case. There are not that many research programs going on regarding specific individuals over a period of time. I have no doubt. And it's not a question you don't remember them. In all likelihood, they just didn't have an interest in you at the time. For whatever reason. You can call that luck or disappointment, whichever one you choose.
Very true. Very true. Let's move on. Let's go next to Nikki in Seattle. Do the Caesarians work with human government military?
Yes. And no, I'm not going to tell you where they're landing, where their conclaves are. I will tell you they came here as protectors of humans against the Teklek race. Now, the Teklek are another reptilian race that is between 3.5 to 4.5 feet long. Okay, they like the Srazazians are technologically advanced, but Srazazian and Teklek are in an ongoing interstellar war. And by the way, that might indicate that war really doesn't solve a whole lot. But yeah, they came here with a couple of qualifiers. We will not give you advanced technology. We will not involve ourselves in your wars. Because the reality is the consortium simply looks at it and goes, no. These guys, humans, must be permitted to evolve down their own path. Be it that they put things together or they blow themselves into oblivion. We cannot stop them from doing it.
All right, let's go over to Area 53 here. Sometimes in dreams that seem more than a dream, I encounter beings that look human but are 20 feet tall. Do you know who they may be?
In all likelihood, you're looking at Anunnaki. The Anunnaki they evolved on Earth. And millennia back, before mankind got anywhere, the Anunnaki reached out to the consortium to get them off Earth. Because the Anunnaki already knew that that humans could not evolve alongside the Anunnaki. Okay, so the Anunnaki gave up their residency on Earth, had somebody else build their ship because they didn't have that technology at the time, and then they loaded onto it and took off. Humans see these skeletons all over the place. Okay, we're finding 30-foot skeletons and going, well, where did these come from? Well, they came from the Anunnaki that died. And yeah, I realize that's a different take on what most people hear about the Anunnaki. But Anunnaki range anywhere. A teenager will be 12, 14 feet tall. And you can get Anunnaki. An average height would be 25, 30 feet. So that's who you're likely dealing with.
I would agree with you on that. And I always say to people and Keith, please correct me if I'm wrong. I always say to people who have that Anunnaki connection is now that we're still in wintertime and Orion, the constellation, is out, take a look just below the belt and see if anything seems familiar to you. See if you have that connection.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. And if you're looking at the belt, when you look at it, I'm going to have to do this like a clock face. If you look at the belt, if you're looking for a real connection, as it were, look to about the 4 o'clock mark. If you take a look at the width of the belt from star to star, take that distance, go from the center star down to about the 4 o'clock mark, and see what you see.
Oh, there's a lot to see there.
Oh,
that
yeah.
is quite for sure. Let's move on to another question here. Let's go next to Road Flare, who is asking, the WOW radio signal. What do you think that was, Keith?
I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what the reference is, to be frank.
Back in the 70s, SETI allegedly caught a signal that they called the WOW signal coming from deep in space. It was like a radio signal that they picked up. And allegedly, they're still not sure where it came from, how or what the source of it was. if it was from another life system, or if it was from an explosion, or if it was from a black hole or whatever.
Well, we can safely rule out the black hole thing, but what you're probably looking at is now, the only question I got for you there was that at the time, around about the time that mankind was firing off all kinds of radio waves into outer space in hopes of hitting something, or in hopes of getting a response. The reason I'm asking is because my feeling on that is they were likely sending out a scan wave. In other words, let's send out a broadband pulse, blanket the entire world inside and out, and see where technology has evolved to. Mankind just happened to pick it up.
I'm going to ask this. This wasn't a question. This was a comment by Broken Shadow Feather in our chat room. Sleep paralysis is scary. It's like you feel like you can move, but you can't. Does that pertain to alien abduction?
Not categorically. It does pertain to it for some people. But we must remember that sleep paralysis is a natural defensive mechanism for humans. And in all fairness, not just their race. Sometimes it's because of abduction, but sometimes the body just seizes. Okay, maybe the person's going through a dream themselves, and that's a whole more complicated question. But sometimes you're going through something and the stress level gets to the point where your whole body just seizes. Net result, self-induced sleep paralysis. But in either event, it's scarier than all get out for the people going through it. Especially if you're seeing images at the same time. But what people do have to realize is that sleep paralysis on its own does not mean you've been abducted. It is not a quintessential issue.
All right. Let's move on to another question here, Keith. Let's go over to our next question from Terry. Keith, do any of the aliens think 2025 is going to be a special year?
Well, the short answer is no. 2025, according to Offworld, according to the xenosocioeconomic evolution that they are studying, 2025 is just another year. It will be special for some people, but in and of itself, it is just another year in a long series of repeating years. Now, there is no doubt some of these people, some of the aliens, will have special days. Some humans will have special times this year. But is 2025 from a galactic standpoint of any major import? No. Because 2025, you got to remember, we call it 2025. Now, I cannot tell you, I can't quantify this part, but about 20 years ago, I was poking around and found out at that time that humans had 6 different active calendars. Okay, so the year 2025, even on Earth, doesn't apply globally. So no, it's not anything special. However, you as an individual can make this an extremely exciting year in a positive fashion. But that's up to you.
All right. Let's move on to the next question here. Let's go to... Actually, I want to add to that for a second with Terry. Because a lot of the reports that are coming out from people who are studying this field with contacts all over the U.S. government tend to say that they believe that 2025 is going to be a very important year towards the disclosure movement. What is your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on the disclosure movement? It's been reported year after year after year that there's going to be something big happening. I would not hold my breath. We're living in the middle of the disclosure, but what people seem to be going is, when is the government going to come out and tell us there are aliens? Heck, the governments can't even agree on what color the sky is. So no, this whole idea of it being something massive coming in the way of disclosure, I would not hold my breath, because we got to realize, if all of a sudden a massive coliseum, aka a Muldock ship, were to show up over New York in crystal clear physical view, society would buckle, because we have been taught as a species, aliens don't exist. We are the most advanced people. That's what people are being told. And you take a look at the religious side of things. If all of a sudden aliens are here, we have an interesting problem with people's ability to cope. Ultimately, that's my stand on it. I figure it's on disclosure's already happened. I know for me it happened 61 years ago, almost 62. Well, realistically, it's already been 62.
Let's go to our next question. Let's go over to Sierra. Keith, what do you think about the Las Vegas alien landing in the backyard of that family? We talked about this about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I remember the discussion vaguely. I never actually bore witness to the thing because, well, I don't live there.
All right, moving on. Blue Cruz is asking, can biological UFOs disguise their unique energy signature to the point where even an experiencer is unable to pick up or detect their presence?
The short answer is yes, some can. All you got to know how to do is modify the theta waves that are being given off, and all of a sudden mankind no longer recognizes what it's looking at. And rest assured, the scientists on the off-world ships know exactly how to do that. So yeah, they can absolutely make you not recognize what you're looking at. But do understand, this is not a physiological, like it's not a mechanical alteration in most cases.
Okay. Here's the thing, though, Keith. I'm going to use the drones. And it's funny this question came up, and thanks, Blue Cruz, for asking it. When I had my download prior to meeting you, the one thing that I learned from that was that I was able to decipher for me what was real and what was fake. And one of the things that I noticed about it was I could look at a video and just know whether that was something real or something that was not real. And like, even with this drone stuff that's going on in New Jersey, I can look at all of that, and I don't, outside of a couple of videos that I've seen that have made me scratch my head, I don't get anything off of them that seems extraterrestrial at all. And yet there are things that I've seen where it's just like, oh yeah, that's aliens. That's got to be aliens.
Yeah, and there is a rational explanation for that. You and I discussed that part some time back. You have a rare configuration in your brain where you can actually sense what you're looking at. Most humans do not have that. Or more to the point, most humans do not access that. Which does put you in an interesting situation. Myself, I can still look at photographs and I won't know if they are real or if they're mock-up. Okay, I can tell you if what they're showing represents a real thing, but it's very rare that I actually spot one that I can tell you that's a photo of a real item.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you're one of the lucky few that can pull that off.
It's weird. That's for sure. I don't quite understand it. It's definitely weird.
Well, the first trick to understanding something is accepting the fact it's possible.
All right, let's move on to another question here because we only got 4 minutes to go before we're going to take a break at the top of the hour here. Let's go next to Sierra. What is the take of karma according to aliens? And not just the guy on the Chiefs.
Okay, I didn't know there was a guy on the Chiefs named Karma. Karma is simple. You've actually got karma and dharma, and it applies to every race, every species across the third dimension, and for that matter, across the other 11. But karma literally, it relies on the third karmic law: energy out, energy in. Whatever energy you're putting out, karma is what brings it back to you. If it's negative, they call it karma. If you're putting out positive energy, you're building up the positive side of things, which is quantified or labeled dharma. So it's a question of deciding what balance point you desire. But it applies, this same impact applies to every species I've run into, be they an off-world, or an ancient race. Heck, the good news is that God himself is subject to the laws of karma.
Makes sense. All right, let's move on. Mr. Melton is asking, who is your star family, Keith?
That's a little hard to explain. So I'm going to give you an idea, and you're going to look at me with cross-eyed going, there's no way. Understand, I've got memory. If you take a look at the Big Bang Theory, as in that spark that started the universe, I learned to call that a flip. Now, my star family comes from literally 1 billion flips ago. So they're pretty far, they're pretty extensively spread out. Now, that is the real answer. But if you're referring to the friends that I've got various people I call family from all over, from all over the cosmos. But before anybody jumps on any idea there, no, as far as I'm aware, I am not related to any of the world leaders in any world. Of course, in all fairness, I don't have any interest in being a world leader per se.
All right, let's sneak one more in. We got about a minute here. Let's go to Jeff Steve Garvey, who will always hit a home run for you. R. Keith, what is your favorite fruit to eat?
It's a toss-up between pineapple and blueberry.
Oh, I'm a blueberry guy. Big time blueberry guy.
I usually keep a bag of them in the freezer.
Frozen blueberries are amazing. Blueberries in general.
The fresh ones do.
I like watermelon too.
Oh, there's only one way I've found that I like watermelon. You take more watermelon, punch a hole in it, and dump a 26er of vodka upside down in it.
Oh my, R. Keith. Oh my, look at you. Look at you getting all racy there and randy. Wow.
That's the only way I ever found I liked watermelon. Not necessarily good for your health that way, by the way.
No, but no, I like a good watermelon. Not gonna lie, you know. Still can't figure out honeydew or why anybody would like honeydew. But watermelon, blueberries, strawberries, that's the stuff right there. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection continues with your questions in hour 2 right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. More Spaced Out Radio. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, Keith Areno. We're going to take a quick break here. Be right back. Okay. I'm going to put you back in the green room. All right, be right back, everybody. All right, I am back. How y'all doing? Let me see. Let's bring Keith back in. Cool Arrow, how you doing? Aussie Rob, how's them ham hocks? Any other questions here for Keith? Where did Dave go? Dave just disappears. Don't worry about Fap, everybody. Fap is a lonely fellow who still wears acid wash jeans. Acid wash jeans. That's
I
funny.
remember those. I could never understand why I pay for them. I just wear them until they look like that. It's like one of the neat little fad where people bought the ones that were all cut to ribbons.
Don't make me laugh, sweet Robbie G. Don't make me laugh. Thank you tonight to Richard, Area 53, Walter, and Jeff for the great super chats. Greatly appreciated. Hi, Les Paul Holland. How you doing? Here we go. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always a pleasure to bring the woo to you with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection coming right up. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? It is... what is this? Maki collation. Maki collation is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers. As the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continues right now as we take audience questions all night long for Keith, a lifelong experiencer who helps counsel those who have their own experiences now. Keith, we're going to start off with the Doug Shelby asking a question here. Do you think fantasy games like Dungeons and Dragons and Skyrim and sci-fi movies and TV shows hold back or promote disclosure?
I'm not quite sure. I'd be inclined to say they open people's mind to it. Many of the species that you see depicted in those games, I've met in person. Okay, so yeah, it does. It's sort of what I would call a soft disclosure, because the layman will look at those and go, "Oh, they're just too weird," right? And they'll ignore them. People that have borne witness to off-worlders or ancient races, quite often they'll be playing a game and they'll see a picture of one of these creatures and go, "I've seen that before." Like before, without even looking at the game, they'll look at a picture. You know, so I'd have to call it promoting the soft disclosure side of it. Because I will tell you, some of the creatures that people come up with, I'm looking at it going, you can only come up with those if you've got a reference point.
All right, moving on.
It certainly doesn't dissuade the disclosure.
Well, let's move on to the next one. Let's go over to Mike. What happens if we don't like the aliens?
Well, I'd recommend not having coffee with them. But even in the most volatile species, some of them are decent people. Let's face it, I just cannot see at this point the human race agreeing on the whole with we don't like that species. Okay, I just don't see it happening. So on a personal note, if you don't like them, don't associate with them. Now, needless to say, if you happen to be one of these people that are being abducted, the option of not associating isn't exactly viable.
Makes sense.
Ultimately, that's what you're looking at.
Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, it's the same thing if you don't like people, like if you don't like other humans or you don't like dogs, do your best to not go around them and don't hang around where they're likely to be. People that don't like dogs won't go near a dog park. Well, if you know that's an alien, and there's a couple of alien hotspots where around the world where people go, look, abductions happen here all the time. If you don't like the idea, don't go there. It's very much like the red light district, I think in either Denmark or Sweden. I really forget which one. If you don't like that sort of thing, don't go where you know it's taking place.
That makes sense. All right, Keith, let's move on to another question. Murals wants to know, how do they, the aliens, communicate?
That is as wide a question as you can get. Some will do it by language, some by sign, some by pheromones, some by telepathic inference. Then you've got empathic resonance or any number of combinations, not the least of which is photoreactive cells. The Sasquatch, for instance, have an entire band underneath their jawline that changes color via conscious consideration to communicate in the middle of a very nasty sandstorm. By the way, sandstorms on their homeworld are not ones you want to go walking around in. But the number of different ways of communicating, some do it via variations in sonic. You take a look at the Udina, they communicate by three-dimensional ink blots is the best way to put it. So you can see the array is phenomenal. But they do, the Galactic Consortium has a trade language which I tend to call pan-galactic, meaning it covers all the different areas. It's a way for everybody to communicate with the same language.
Let's go to Chris. Teen. I miss your show on your YouTube channel. Will you be back soon?
Well, I don't know about your definition of soon. Tomorrow night, as in Saturday night, we will be going on air from 9 to 10 p.m. Pacific. And then we are just running straight through. We'll still be on air from Friday to Tuesday, except the first Friday of every month, because I'll be here.
All right, Keith, let's move on to a different question. Let's go to Joanne. Do you believe that the human race began on Mars and something catastrophic happened to kill us off?
No. The human race was built on Earth. Okay, Mars is a whole different ballgame, and mankind did not evolve there. Mankind started here and then has evolved from that point. Now, granted, when they were built for war, which is where a lot of this aggression comes from. But they're native to Earth. If we look at where they've gone, the Mobians over on the far side of the sun, they originated on Earth, as did the Anunnaki. But no, humans evolved here.
Okay, let's go to Nikki. Keith, what do you suspect is the percentage of ETs who are telepathic?
I have no functional way of giving you that one. I'd be inclined to say maybe 15%. Maybe. But I wouldn't bet on it being too much higher than that. See, there are races that are totally connected, and many that are telepathic. But more often than not, they use a different form of language that humans just don't get. And again, it really boils down to this. Telepathy is a way of syncing minds. Syncing as in SYNC, of syncing with somebody else's mind. Alien mind configuration does not work in tandem with human configuration very well. Okay, and neither do most of the other races. They're just very differently built. Purpose is the same, but the translation doesn't work out quite as well.
Okay, let's go to Murals again. In regards to his question previous about the ETs, what do they want from us, and are they telepathic and everything? Are they purely logical?
Absolutely not. Some of the races are pure logic. Some are absolutely volatile. And some respond to empathic rhythms. So, I mean, the species, you take the entire, we've got to get away from the concept. What was that? Oh, well, we've got to get away from the concept that there is a blanket way that off-worlders communicate, because it's as varied as the species themselves. They've just figured out certain things in the consortium. They did figure out how to grow interpreters, which is what the hybridization program is all about. Okay, but the methods of communication are extremely varied. Just most of the communicators or the ambassadors are taught how to communicate in what I call the trade language.
Makes sense. All right, Keith, let's go to Andromedan. Are there races who can use magic and the power of the elementals for the user benefits?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely they are. Or there is more to the point. They're in number one, if we look at ancient races, what you have learned as a mythological elf are fully functional on what you would call true magic. There are entities out there that literally their entire existence is based on what humans would consider magic. And I'm not talking about technology evolving to a certain level. I'm talking about this neat little idea of babbling a few syllables, making a few hand gestures, and blowing something apart. That's a bit extreme, but it does give you an idea.
What kind of magic are we talking about here?
This is where we go back to that earlier reference to Dungeons and Dragons, Shadowrun, Wizard Wars, and there are copious other role-playing games and video, movies that have portrayed somebody casting a lightning bolt, changing the color of something by waving their hand over it, simply melding flesh with solid matter. It's all a matter of energy manipulation done in a different fashion. I think it was Einstein that said, when you push technology to its ultimate level, there is little difference between it and magic. When you can get it straight in your own head and you can accept the possibility, there are staggering things that you can do. Everything from healing at a staggering rate, okay, which is not always done by genetics. humans work with what many people call Reiki. I find Reiki too slow. So I use a slightly different version. But it boils down to understanding the way energy works, which, by the way, is not what people are being taught in school.
All right, let's move on to a different question. Let's go next to, let's take a look here. Let's go to Nikki. Why are the ETs part of a consortium? What is their advantage being in or part of that group?
Well, number one, if they have a problem, the consortium will move in to protect them. Like, let's say you're a member of the consortium, your planet is, okay, and another race that isn't a member of the consortium moves in to try and invade your planet. The consortium will move heaven and earth to come in and protect you, okay, giving you a staggering amount of firepower to support you. Okay, or if your planet is dying and you're a member of the consortium and you're in serious trouble, consortium cargo ships will move in, collect up as many people as possible, and find a new planet for them. But understand that comes with the idea that if the consortium calls on you because another race is in trouble, you've got to go in and help there as well. It's a mutual thing.
Awesome.
That's one of the benefits. Of course, you've also got that neat little thing if you're traveling between star systems and you go outside of yours and you run into trouble and you're a member of the consortium, pick up, if you will, the Intergalactic Auto Club and get them to come and get somebody to come out and give you a hand. I can't tell you how many ships have been caught in black holes that the consortium had to deal with, to pull them out before it became too late for them. And rest assured, there's a very big difference between black hole maneuvering and wormhole maneuvering.
Got it. Let's move on. Warden Dragon wants to know, I wonder what the tall whites have to do with Earth going forward.
Not a whole lot. The tall whites would be your Aldebarans. Okay, I mean, they are here to watch, but they're not the ones guiding where mankind goes. Mankind's got that responsibility. This is humans' world. Humans are the caretakers, as in the dominant surface-dwelling, technologically advanced race. Humans, not aliens, not anything else. Humans have the responsibility. Now, the Aldebarans are watching what's going on because they are also storytellers. And they will go around and pass on the efforts that primitive man is using to get their own life in order. But they're not here to correct what mankind is doing, only to observe it.
Okay. Murals is wondering, is music a universal language?
Absolutely. It emanates from basic physics. Okay, everything vibrates and gives off a sonic impression. And once you understand that, you can communicate in all kinds of ways. And sound is simply, it's universal because of the fact that music gives off not only an auditory component, but a visual one, optical, a pheromonal one, as well as it gives off a taste. And once you can cross correlate the whole thing, you've got a massive amount of information that can be passed on in one word. Even if the word isn't the same. Okay, it's the tone of it that matters. This is why so many people react, like empaths have a heyday with it. Empaths, even human empaths, have an interesting little problem. They respond to the auditory impact, usually beyond what they're even aware of.
Mr. Melted is wanting to know, I've been contacted by the Omega people. Do you know anything about them?
It is quite possible, but unfortunately, the best way I can answer that is I probably know them by a different name. But absolutely, drop me a line describing what you know. I may well know them by another name. And I'll be happy to fill you in.
Just that simple. Who are they?
Well, this is my problem. I don't know what he's running into that he calls him as Omega.
Gotcha. I see where you're going with that one now. All right, let's move on. Let's go next to Destiny. What are the half snake at bottom and half human at top called? I had an encounter with them.
One group, and there's a couple of them fit that, and I don't have a name for you right off the top of my head. I do have it in my notes, but I do believe the Naga is what you're referring to. And yes, they are very much a reptilian-like race. Not something you need to worry about.
Yeah,
they're one of these neat little races that are actually more communicative than they are aggressive. So if you're having an encounter with them, the odds are they're simply looking to set up communication or to just have a conversation in passing.
Mr. Melton is asking, are we a farm planet to the aliens? Are we being farmed?
Absolutely not. Now, I'll say that quite emphatically, and there's a lot of people that argue the point. But no, mankind, certainly the Zeta Reticulans do come down and collect people because the Zeta Reticulans are utilizing the stock here as a baseline for the hybridization program. But no, humans were not put here so they could be taken away like cattle off of a cattle farm. Humans are their own people. It's a viable question, don't get me wrong. But it falls under the same category of what the consortium does. They look at it going, humans are evolving. And right now, from a xeno-socioeconomic standpoint, humans are at a phenomenally exciting point in life. Then the other races are not permitted to interfere with it. So no, this is not, you're not living in a petri dish. Probably feels like it on occasion.
Could be. Terry would like to know, as this will be our final question, Keith, we've got about a minute. Is the old hag real? And if so, what is her purpose?
Well, we go back to that little problem. I'd lay odds she's real, but I'd also lay odds she's probably one of another race. But I have the story behind the old hag to actually be able to tell you.
And here I just thought it was my former mother-in-law.
Well, that could be, but that's your problem.
On certain Halloween nights, I swear I still see her flying her broom across the sky. That's
maybe
for sure.
she's upgraded and rides a vacuum now.
No, that's definitely not it. But that's okay. Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection returns right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Keith, we're clear. Ethanol wants to know, are you coming to Vegas?
Best I can tell you is if we can pull the money together, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I've already talked to my fiance, and she's all for it. But it is a matter of finance.
Overlander, how you doing? Zenzabil, welcome back. And who else is showing up here? Yes, Fap, I am weird. But at least I don't drive a beige Volvo 4-door sedan.
Yeah. Karen and I were just commenting the other day that it would have been really convenient had you made the day a week later. The party a week later. Then it would fit right in with our schedule.
You can blame Merle.
Blame Merle.
Yeah. Blame Merle.
But I mean, it still boils down to whether we got the finances to do it.
Yes. Totally get that, my friend. Totally get that. But blame Merle.
Yeah, I got no problem pointing the finger. I grew up military. Passing the buck is just normal.
All right. About 3.5 minutes. Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got Canadians. Fap's the kind of guy who brings his own toothpick to a restaurant. It's the kind of guy he is. Bombshell Bomber, how are you? Little Timmy James. Tim, I think I got to change your last name in my phone because I could never remember your other last name.
Don't you hate that?
I do. Yeah, I was looking for Tim's phone number on my phone the other day. I couldn't find it because I couldn't remember his last name.
Yeah, that can be a pain in the neck. I find out if I put somebody's name in and then don't use it for a while, it's like, who pray tell was this?
Yep.
I've got names that I know I kept them for a reason, but I'm like, who are they? Like, I haven't spoken to them in decades. Mm-hmm. Why do I still have them on my phone?
Mm-hmm. Just for everybody out there to know, Fap sits at home on weekends making friendship bracelets.
That's so much better than sitting at home making finger nooses.
Oh, what's your temperature, Mike? It's -5 outside the studio here, waiting for the snow to start. All right, 30 seconds. Thank you to Richard. Area 53, Jeff and Walter for the great super chats tonight. Hi, Latchkey. How you doing? He makes friendship bracelets to put on his teddy bear's arms. He also collects porcelain dolls. Here we go, Keith. We got 7 seconds.
Fire away, we're ready.
Yeah, lots of questions here, bud. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. The woo is cranked up with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go with R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection coming on up here. And Keith, we're going to continue with some audience questions. We really appreciate it. Let's start off with Willard here. Keith, I had a dream in reality astral projection where I could have sworn I saw somehow Lucifer heaven form drop down on my Archangel Michael like out of a movie. Wanted to know what you think it is.
Could be a number of things, not the least of which, and it really depends on what your religious background is as to why those particular people. Because clearly you're talking about a conflict that is drawn, if you look at it just on the surface, from religion, from Christian training. But when you look at the angels, and bear in mind, Lucifer and Michael were quite often at odds with each other, even before the Great War started. So you might have been just looking at a, if you will, a family squabble. Whatever you do, don't read it as though it's some indicator that the end of the world is coming. Because the end of the world is about, as there are some people have told me, about 5 trillion years away. I don't think it's going to matter to us too much.
No. Agree.
I mean, in my case, it might, but...
All right, Keith, let's move on to another question. Let's go to River Dog. Do off-world craft have cloaking abilities like Klingons from TV, or is it U.S. government?
Number one, both. Some off-world craft have what you call a cloaking capacity, and government has technology that can be utilized to work as cloaking. Not the least of which I'll draw your attention to the semis in Japan that have a video set up on the front of the semi that portrays what they see on the front onto the back wall, onto the back doors, so that people that are following them can see what's ahead in order to be able to pass them on the highway. Same type of technology can be used in any other vehicle on Earth. Now, the neat part is when you look at the off-worlders, they have not only cloaking capacity in some cases, they have phase capacity. In other words, they can shift their vibratory rate and pass right through a physical object without leaving any damage.
All right, Keith, let's move on. Let us next go to Moody Mongol. Do you think it's possible that plasma from the sun life uses galaxy filaments to navigate around the universe?
Okay, you want to repeat that just one more time there, Dave?
Do you think that it's possible that plasma life uses galaxy filaments to navigate around the universe?
If we refer to galaxy, if we liken gravity or galaxy filaments to wormholes, the answer is absolutely yes. Because star plasma is a viable energy source for higher tech. Humans cannot use star plasma as an energy source yet. Something to do with the vehicles we're building will melt or blow up. Take your pick. But yeah, they absolutely use it as both a fuel source and a method of transport. There's even some pilots that are really cute where they will go to warp inside a gravity well. Now, doing that at the end of at a sun surface, they won't make enough of a disturbance to damage the sun, but boy, can it result in some interesting travel. By the way, it usually blows the engine. This is why it's not usually recommended.
All right, Keith, let's go to Blue Cruise here. Are the current 20 plus foot tall, are they all the humanoid giant sightings around the world assumed to be the Anunnaki or a variety of different alien ET races?
Well, I can't speak to the assumption, but I will tell you, the Anunnaki are not the only race that is that size. Okay, there are other races that will fit that bill, but the Anunnaki are the most common.
Who else has
Now,
tall races?
well, I know that there are, and I don't have a name yet, but there is a race I recently came across where, like, Anunnaki on the whole are basically Caucasian or any of the normal human colors. But there is a race, there's one race that is absolutely brilliant blue. To make matters worse or make matters more distinctive, they don't look human in as much as they happen to have a bird head. And then you've got a few others that do rank up there in height. I mean, I've seen one race where they literally are well over 100 feet tall. Now the problem there is you'll never see those ones on Earth, at least not the adults. I guess technically you could, but boy, would that eliminate the question of whether it was real.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Nikki. Keith, do some types of ETs eat humans?
Tech-like are a primary example. So are, the Alarians are another one that will quite readily eat humans. They're carnivores. Understand, they do not go around wiping out humans wholesale. And we are not looking at some sort of massive movement of a given race moving and going, hey, it's some sort of smorgasbord going on. Techlex literally, and yes, I think I'm just looking in the chat room. Love, you are absolutely right. The Kleeklock do eat humans. Okay, the Kleeklock, by the way, are what you would call mantis. Okay, and there's a lot of different races that will. Any of the carnivorous ones will quite readily do it. The Fuente Wren will eat anybody, but then they have to. But again, you got to remember, this is like Earth itself is not a game reserve. So no, they can't come in and go, they can't come in and go, oh, let's go hunt down a human. Unlike the movie Predator that showed, and the Predator is basically is patterned after the Muldock.
Still scary as anything.
Ow. I don't argue that point.
All right, let's move to another question. Let's go to Sierra. Are there aliens that feed off human energy?
Absolutely. Again, it really boils down to, if you can think about it, the odds are it exists. But yes, when you're looking at feeding off human energy, okay, the Singinan, yes, they drink blood, but there is a race of Singinan that never draw blood. They just simply suck the life out of you. And there are a few non-corporeals that will absolutely do so, because that's how they survive. I think what I'm going to have to do is put a list together, just put a cheat sheet together, so to speak. So when I get some of these questions, that I can just go, here's the actual races I know of that fit that bill. I think that would be really beneficial to have done for next month. Just so I got it sitting there in case.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on to the next one, my friend. Let's go to Boondock. What are the pale-skinned crawlers known as the Rake?
This is where we go back to that same little problem. I'd be inclined to say you might be looking at Berondi, but not knowing what description people are utilizing for the Rake. And this is just an open one to all of you people. Okay. If you've got a description of a race that you are looking for what it is, drop me a line. Let me know the details you can about what they look like, what the ones look like, or how they behave. And I will take a look through my notes and see what I've got on Lizard. Looking at that. What I've got on record. Because I've already passed. I've only got 60 in the one book, but I've already got over 120 documented. Out of well over 2,500.
All right, Keith, let's go to another question. This one goes from Chief over on Twitch. Do you think it's possible ETs are just humans from thousands of years ago that were able to leave Earth?
Only some of them. As in the Mobians are. The Mobians originated on Earth and left Earth 50,000 years ago. But most off-worlders are just another race. They evolved elsewhere and are now here. This is not a question of you're an off-worlder, therefore you started off here. But the Mobians did start off on Earth, as did the Anunnaki. There's really not that many people that evolved here. This is an extremely young planet, comparatively speaking.
Let's go back to Destiny here. All right. We asked a question about the half snake at the bottom, half human at top, but where are they from?
Now, I'm just trying to remember where I know what she's referring to. I believe they are, and I'm sort of having to extrapolate in a sense, but I believe they're from the far side of Betelgeuse originally. But I mean, some have ended up here and stayed here. At one point, there was a number of them that ended up moving into what you would call Hollow Earth or Inner Earth. There's a staggering number of different species inside this planet. This is what I call ancient races.
Continue.
The one thing about them is we got to realize that when we're looking at them, they are not, the Naga are not a demon race. Okay, they are simply a different race. But you can see why You take a naga that where it stands up, as in the leg coil behind it, the front half is 6 feet tall, which means their tail is another 12. Now picture that going down the street, any street in the world, and see how relaxed people get.
All right, sounds good. Let's go to Human Carl. I recently, pardon me, I bit my tongue there while I was speaking. Oh my goodness.
That's painful. I've done that before. It's no fun.
I recently watched a show about the Lacerta, a reptilian race living underground. Do you know anything about them, and can you share it with us?
Now, the short answer would be yes. And now, why am I having trouble? I'm just going to do this the easy way. I'm drawing a blank because I'm laying odds the Lacerta are. I'm just looking at my book here because where are we here? Just looking for the actual name here. What the heck is it now? Sure, I'm going to pull a complete blank on this. Oh, okay. Starts with a C. Not the Chitwari, but the heck is it? It is the Chitwari. I'm laying odds that the Lacerta are literally what I know as the Chitwari, which are a reptilian race that evolved on Earth and is locally centralized under Africa. Specifically, you'll find them more under Mount Kilimanjaro. And yeah, I can tell you that because, quite frankly, they know how to dispose of people that show up there. And they're not above doing it. Just a thought.
All right, Keith, let's continue on here. Let's go next to Nikki. Why would the consortium allow hybridization?
That's actually a really good question. You can take a computer and program it to take words from another language and say, okay, this word means this. But all linguistics are rooted in the genetics. And, the biggest problem, Gene Roddenberry of Star Trek fame made it real clear that the biggest problem that people would have dealing with aliens is no cultural reference. If I, as a human, pick up a cup and hold it out to you, anywhere on the planet, a human holds up a receptacle and holds it out, it's going to be assumed that is offering them a drink or offering them something. There are races that's actually a threat. Okay, so when you do the hybridization, what you're doing is taking two different races, combining them on a very specific level, and then you grow a cultural interpreter, which is able to not only understand the language, but can also understand the cultural significance of it. That's why the hybridization program is in place. Just so happens humans are one of the most versatile genetic bases, being as they operate with a triple helix. And yeah, I know humans keep getting told, oh, we work on the double helix. No, you don't. But the double helix is what people are used to.
All right.
That's why the hybridization program is utilized.
Let's go to Derek.
It out.
Let's go to Derek here. Keith,
Sure.
How much truth does the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game have with the reality we all live in?
When you look at the creatures, a lot of them are based in in what I call true reality. Okay, as far as the game system and the way it's laid out, we can only dream that it would work that well in some cases. But as far as the creatures of the races go, it's got a pretty wide array of actual races available. Okay, where it comes to the actual societal structure, sorry, we can chalk that up to the creators of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, as far as I know, that would be Arneson and Hardicane, as well as Gary Gygax. And there's other ones, but the game system is a game system. The creatures, the gods, the myths that you talk about, a lot of it is based in reality.
All right, buddy. Let's go to another one. Let's go to President Zaddy. Is there an alien controlling us, or do we have free will?
You have free will, period. There's no variation on that. Every entity in existence has free will and free choice. What you don't have is freedom from consequence.
I like it.
So yeah, you're responsible for your own life and what you do with it.
Let's go to Colin. What type of healing modality do you practice, Keith?
The clinical term would be psychocellular kinesis. In a nutshell, I modify the subquantum and quantum resonance of my body to enhance the speed that it heals. Point in fact, tracked in a hospital was, and you can't see it, but I have a scar here on my forearm that was broken so badly they had to bolt it into place. From the time they bolted it, it was 9 days to be fully healed. They never had time to cast it. All I do is remind the body what it can do. And yes, I have done that with other people.
2 minutes to go here, Keith. See what we could get in here. Let's go back to Derek. What is the most advanced spaceship in the solar system?
What's the most advanced spaceship?
Yeah.
That would have to be the consortium flagship. And yeah, I'll be quite happy to tell you, because I've been told it's okay. Sits inside the sun, inside Sol's photosphere at approximately the 4 o'clock mark. Okay, that ship, their flagship, has a primary cannon that if you were to take the HMS Titanic, turn it broadside, you could shove it down the barrel of this thing and still have room to maneuver.
All right, minute to go. Let's get one more question in. Now let's go to Blue Cruise. Will there come a point in time when humanity will be able to stop all abductions by aliens, ETs, based on our free will and individual sovereignty over our physical bodies?
I would not hold my breath. Is it technically possible? Yes. Okay, humans did that before when they evolved to the point that the Mobians did. When you have a unified world where humans are absolutely linked, yet not a hive mind, and drawing on each other's energy at will, yes, you can stop it. But I don't see that happening in the next 30 to 40 generations at the earliest. So technically the answer is it is possible. I wouldn't be holding my breath, and it certainly won't be in your lifetime.
All right, Keith, I want to say a big thank you for coming back on, kicking off 2025 with us, my friend. It is always fun, and thank you very much. We will talk to you in February, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks so much for everybody that came in and joined us.
Coming up next, Swamp Dweller, an extra small.
Happy New Year, guys.
To Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Okay? See you soon, buddy.
Absolutely, Dave. You take care.
Good night. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Extra small is here. All right. All right, I am back. We got Lee. We got hello, Jackie. Woohoo! Sounds good. Let's bring these two weirdos on here. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, Dave.
Lee likes to mute himself.
I didn't do that.
I muted him.
Uh-huh.
Much love going on here.
Juliana, how are you, beautiful? And Firewater, nice to have you here. We got a minute to go. Swamp Dweller is approximately 3.5 minutes. And yeah, thank you tonight to Area 53, Jeff, Walter, and Richard for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support, everybody. I'll just sit here, stare.
Yeah.
Looking at Lee's extra smallness. Looks good, man. Looks good. He only has one shirt. One shirt.
That's it, too.
Yes, it's true. I did call Grandma Rose on the air twice. Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What is this? Macacolation. Macacolation is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. This story took place in June 2022. My friends and I decided to go on a camping trip. I decided to bring my dog Chief, my 150-pound Newfoundland. Before continuing, Chief is unlike most Newfies. He was born and lived in the bush for the first year of his life and developed good hunting skills. I found him caught in my trap lines 9 months ago. I'll skip over a bunch of stuff to cut to the chase. We bonded very strongly during this recovery, and I learned that my Newfoundland could hold his own in a scrap. One afternoon, when I got home from work, I found 2 dead coyotes in the backyard. He is now a healthy, solid farm and guard dog. Anyway, one day my friends, who we will call Jimmy and Alfie, decided to go on a week-long camping trip in northern British Columbia. They invited me, and we packed our bags, took a week off work, jumped in my F-150, and headed north. When we reached the woods, we put our packs on. I loaded Chief with his little buggy. I built it so he could pull his weight during the summer and fall camping trips instead of only having a sled in winter. That carried our tent, sleeping bags, and the light stuff, nothing heavy. We had covered 5 miles by the time we set up camp. Once we were set up for the night, I took Chief's harness off so he could run around and, do his thing out in the woods. When it was time to eat, I gave Chief his food and we ate. Jimmy, Alfie, and I sat beside each other and ate pork. Chief was lying beside the fire, his head on his paws looking at us. He suddenly got to his feet and let out the loudest, most resounding bark I had ever heard, which was only increased by the echo of the bush. When we turned, we saw some branches shaking, like something was running away. We decided it was just a raccoon, or at the worst, a bear. Later that night, we were just chatting. Chief had gone off to pee or something when we heard something coming to life to the left of us. I figured it was Chief when suddenly I saw a flash of black fur out of the corner of my eye on the right, and then Chief went barreling between us and the campfire. I turned my head in time to see a man who would have been around 6'1" with a piece of firewood get to his feet and raise it above his head to hit him. Still, before he could land a blow, Chief jumped up and landed dead square on his chest, pushing him to the ground. When he landed, Chief was already off when the man realized he was bit. This man whirled around onto his hands and knees and was beginning to make his way to the piece of wood he had dropped, but was staring down the wrinkled-up muzzle of Chief. He was standing over the timber and growling. I can only really believe this because I witnessed it myself. He growled before delivering a very deadly rush for the throat when he was hunting. I ran over to hold Chief while Jimmy and Alfie helped the man. We searched for him and found stuff that made us realize he didn't come for the marshmallows. We saw this man's neck wound and decided to cut our trip short and turn him in. And yes, we brought him up for 3 days to report him. This guy told the police that God told him to sneak into our tent and slit our throats to sacrifice us. The man needed 3 surgeries before he could be released from the hospital. I am forever grateful to my dog. Without him, I have no idea where we would be. But damn, be safe out there in the woods.
Always be safe in the woods. You never know the monsters that are coming or hiding out there or lurking. Let's head to Jackie and Lee.
Oh, hello, Jackie.
All right, Jackie Harmon is here with extra small Lee Strauss hanging on out. What's happening?
Hello, Dave.
Well, this is her show. She can kick it off.
Yeah, just because we don't have hello, Lee, we got hello, Jackie.
Mhm.
Hello, extra small.
All right, Jackie, I'm going to get you to turn your microphone down just a little bit. You're a little bit loud and cracking up, but that's okay. That's okay. If you could do that, that would be wonderful. Guys, there was a lot of breaking news earlier today regarding this incident outside of Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. And Sean Ryan from the Sean Ryan Show had a gentleman on who was, I mean, this was all over the place. If you haven't seen it yet, I would suggest going there. And, I mean, obviously the conspiracy theorists out there are trying to figure out what this Cybertruck bomber was all about. And allegedly this person, prior to, like, we're talking hours before detonating the fireworks and the bomb on the Cybertruck, released a mini manifesto here that includes UFOs, UAP, and anti-gravity technology. So I'm going to read this to you guys, and then you guys can give me your opinion on this, because I think it's important that we discuss this. So this was released. In case I do not make it to my decision point or on the way to Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 January and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with these drones is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered by aircraft by most recently China in the East Coast, throughout history, the U.S. Only we and China have this capability. Our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below. Now, that OPSEN location, so basically that's Operations Center, it was pinpointed on a map to be in Groom Lake at Area 51, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Now, this letter goes on to say China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. As of now, it is just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they use the balloons for SIGINT and JSR, which are also part of the integrated comm system. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned AC. They are most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. USG needs to give the history of this, how we are employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them, and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast. I have been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI, and they are looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and I have a massive V-bead. So what a V-bead is basically a vehicle bomb, IED. Yeah. So improvised explosive device. I've been trying to maintain a visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimruz province of Afghanistan in 2019 by admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck of civcas, which is civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft in CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA and Agent Blank, which has been redacted, of the DEA. So I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with General Miller's IO staff, on this, as well as the response to Bala Murghab, AOB-S commander at the time, word redacted, can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war, because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. For vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, and active duty 18Z out of 110. My profile is public. I have an active TSSCI with UAP and USAP access. Now, one of the big questions that obviously interests us in this was the fact that he mentioned UAP. Now, is that UAP as in unidentified anomalous or aerial phenomena, or is that another acronym for something a little bit more militaristic? What do you think, Lee?
Well, definitely more militaristic. I heard that they were talking about anti-gravitics as it pertains to these drones. And from what I understand, Dave, is that they're using some sort of a microwave signal to control these drones. And your regular EMP or drone, anti-drone tech will not work on these craft whatsoever. So, yeah, it's something that we haven't seen before. We've only kind of heard about it on the sidelines. So this is pretty interesting. Most likely it was our tech before it was China's tech. As things go, we come up with something and they're able to figure it out or steal the tech. So,
what's your thoughts, Jackie?
For me, I was thinking it was the opposite of the military. I was thinking more UAP, like what we talk about. So, that's the way I took it when I read it. So that's just, I never even thought about it being military related. I mean, I understand he's military, but I didn't really even think about that.
Well, here's one thing, Jackie, that, to add to what you're saying. For the last couple of years, and I'm going to pat myself on the back here for a second. I have been talking to people and reading between the lines of what military and government officials have said. And when it comes down to a situation, they always seem to separate UFO from UAP. That has always told me, and including the people I've talked to privately about this, that UFOs are from somewhere else. UAP are man-made objects. And if he is discussing UAP in this matter of drones, that is human technology, not extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial technology. So I find that very interesting about it. The anti-gravitics, I mean, it could come from extraterrestrials or maybe just deep down in the bunkers of Area 51, Jackie, that they have developed that type of science. What's your thoughts?
Well, for me, it's, we've only learned about this whole UAP thing, what, a couple years now. And I just kind of figured in my mind that maybe that was just their way of like getting rid of the whole UFO, let's not say UFO anymore. Let's change it. And I remember exactly when they did that. So it totally makes sense when you think about it now with everything happening, that's exactly what you said is true, that I think UAP is more like the military and the government are more involved with the UAPs than the UFOs, because I do find it odd that sometimes they'll use both ways of saying it, and when it's really weird and they can't figure out exactly what's going on, they'll throw out a UFO, but it like lately with the drones, I'm hearing more UAPs. So that really does make a lot more sense now.
I find it interesting that he even brought that up. I mean, this gentleman, and once again, for people who don't know, his name was, where is it here? Of course, I don't write it down because I'm like, I could just grab it from there. His name is Matthew Livelsberger. Now, this gentleman was a decorated Green Beret. Apparently, a week ago, his fiance or wife left him. Apparently, she is claiming that he suffered traumatic brain injury and PTSD and everything like that. So, I mean, it is something that, could be part of it. We don't know. The investigation's still early. And no offense, in typical American journalism media, first, let's report what somebody tells us before confirming the facts. So we don't have a true, real sense of the entire story. But in the end, this story has got the UFO community up in arms right now, because was he one of us? That's the big question, Lee. Was he a guy who was actually working on this or being around this type of technology, being a Green Beret?
Yeah, I would definitely say that this gentleman here has probably been around this sort of tech, especially, if he's been around Area 51, he's probably seen this type of tech before. And, you say, they're talking about anti-gravitics. So I would think that is back engineered tech from, another species out there, an alien species out there. So, yeah. And it seems to me China is so good at taking our tech and making it work and doing it in such quick fashion that you could have China drones going on, and then you could have US drones going on basically using the same technology in the same area. Why not? Showing a show of force.
There was another letter released on this as well, where he seems very distraught about the way the United States is moving forward with administrations, and basically, saying this isn't a terrorist attack. This is a wake-up call.
Yeah. As far as he is concerned, and his truck bomb, right?
Yes.
Obviously, it wasn't meant to really hurt anybody. It was meant to wake people up.
It was more like a disclosure bombing.
Yeah. And
all right. But do you think, though, that we need to be paying attention? Here's the big thing for me when I say that.
Mm-hmm.
If a Russian ship or submarine heads to Cuba, they know very quickly when that ship is going there or when that submarine is going there.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
I don't think for an instant that there are Chinese submarines hiding off the East Coast without the American Navy and national security knowing about it.
that's correct.
Now,
Yeah.
But here's the other thing to go against that, though, if I play devil's advocate. A lot of these drones were seen coming from the ocean and then leaving towards the ocean.
That's true.
So there is that. What's your thoughts, Jackie?
I remember when this whole drone thing started, and especially where I live, because, I live right near the ocean. And a lot of people were claiming to see these coming up and out of the ocean or going back down into the ocean. And I've always believed that, there are UFOs that for however many thousands of years or beyond have been living in the ocean or have some kind of, reason for going in there. But this is something that's been happening in California for many, many years. That's not a new thing to us. We actually see them go in the ocean and around Catalina Island quite often. So that wasn't a new thing for us. So when people started saying like we're seeing these things go in there, it was an interesting one because it made me wonder, like, why are these being seen going in, or is it the exact same thing that we saw before?
Well, it's funny because one of my sources who I talk to about this type of cloak and dagger stuff is actually texting me as we speak. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm trying to pay attention to you guys and what this person is saying. And this person says, China has a World War II Navy, LOL. They have 3 subs. We're going to know about that. We're going to know if China has a submarine parked. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. I mean, look, this isn't a good situation, and it isn't a good look. And whatever was troubling this soldier, God bless him for hopefully he found some peace on the other side. But I mean, the conspiracy theories now are running extremely rampant to the point where it was even suggested on the Sean Ryan show that the whoever it is inside may not be Littlesberger or Levelsberger. It might have been somebody else, and that his passport and his military ID survived the explosion. And that's how they were able to identify it, but they couldn't identify the body.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be a lot more coming out of this as we speak, but we're going to turn our attention as we go to break here right after this. We're going to talk about this situation in Washington State with these 2 gentlemen who died going looking for Bigfoot. Jackie Harmon, Lee Strauss, Extra Small, on tap for the final half hour.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear.
Okay, so that's one thing. You just talked about the DNA. And so the DNA of the individual that was found dead in the Cybertruck is not the same DNA of the gentleman's child. I did hear that. So there is some difference in DNA there.
It's going to be interesting.
Definitely.
I just got this note. China's submarine fleet. It's difficult to give an exact number for China's most technologically advanced submarines, as most modern can be subjective and information is often classified. However, we could look at the newest and most capable classes. Type 094A Jin class. This is the latest iteration of their nuclear ballistic missile submarine. It is believed they have 6 in service. And their other class, they estimated 2 to 3 are operational, with maybe more being built. And just on a comparison, the United States Navy currently has 72 nuclear-powered submarines. Yeah.
Yep.
Somehow I think Uncle Sam wins that battle.
Yeah.
Maybe the sea battle.
It's like everybody freaking, it's like everybody freaking out about this 6th generation fighter that China just came out with. That it's stealth and it's fast and it's this and it's that.
Mhm.
We tend to forget that the United States military developed stealth technology in the 1950s. And if they developed that technology in the 1950s, what the hell is out there that we have no clue about?
Exactly. We
Very true.
tend to keep our cards close to the chest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that very, very interesting.
Mhm. I think there's a lot of things that, as civilians, we really don't know anything about. They keep a lot of things from us. And in the past, I actually had access to a base. I was in Alaska, and I was with someone who had access to the base, and we saw these jets come flying out and flew right over us. And we were just amazed at how they flew. It was just beyond like what we would normally see. And there were 2 of them, and they just took off. And I swear, if we didn't know, if we weren't there and saw it, with our own eyes and saw it somewhere else in the world, you would probably think it was, a UFO. It was like really strange the way it was shaped and the way it flew and the sound. And it was an eye opener for me being there
That
about
was Lee
how.
with wings. Totally Lee with wings flapping away.
Chicken wings.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Firewater
eye opener though for you.
Yes, blueberries. Love the blueberries. Love the blueberries. Good old blueberries. I want some blueberries now.
Yeah, some mountain blueberries.
Mm-hmm. I have to put in for the first time in 18 years, I actually have to put in a vacation request form.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that for Vegas?
Well, I'm supposed to go to UFO Con in San Francisco April 4th through 6th. And then I got to go to Nebraska later that month, and then Vegas the week after.
Living a rough life, man.
Well, it's Just one of those things, right? I mean, not everybody could be cut from Lee Strauss cloth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, good
True
Lord.
story.
Yeah. I mean, thank you tonight to Walter, Jeff, Richard, and Area 53 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate it. Great swag at spacedoutradio.com and definitely not ugly. Definitely not ugly. Here we go. Like 5 seconds. No ugly swag. Here we go. Here we go at the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Well, it's been about 10, 11 days now, maybe less, since we heard of this report of two Bigfoot hunters, one 59, the other one 37, going to look for Bigfoot. They're from Oregon State. They were up in Washington State. Seems like they got caught in the elements and were not prepared for it. But, of course, people are like, really? People are looking for Sasquatch? Now, this area, very close to where Jackie and Lee had their incident earlier in 2024, where Sasquatch did all but ask Jackie out on a date, wouldn't even feed her dinner in the middle of the night. No champagne, no rosé wine, nothing. Just rude. Just take me to your leader type of handling. Lee, we talked about this last week when you were on with us, and I know you have been looking for updates on this situation. What do you got for us?
Well, I wish that the guy that I was talking to would have given me an update. I did talk with him briefly today, but as of yet, he has not heard anything back. But Jackie and I were talking about this today, earlier today, and she brought up a good point, and I'd like to follow that up as well. The information that she actually thought of that made a lot of sense to me. Why don't you go ahead, Jackie?
Well, I just find it really odd that you've got two guys who have probably been out before. I'm guessing this is probably not their first time ever going out looking for Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Okay, so, you're talking about two men. I wouldn't consider them to be, like too old to go out and do this, especially in cold weather. And if you're going to be out for one day, maybe 5-6 hours, God, my battery's trying to die on me. Sorry. Hope I don't lose you guys. Then you're going to be prepared for this. Okay. Yes, it's cold out. So you're going to wear the proper clothes and you're probably going to take enough stuff for the afternoon. If it's a backpack with water, food, snacks, whatever it may be. And it just seems really odd to me that they say that these men went missing after so many days, but yet they were supposed to be home the exact same day that they went. This was Christmas Eve morning, okay, that they left. They were supposed to be home for like a dinner party or something for Christmas Eve with their family that same night. I just find it very strange that at their age that they can't last one afternoon in the cold. And I was just telling Lee today, I went camping in like 4 degrees under a tarp. Okay, I wasn't even in a regular tent and I survived fine. Yes, I was bundled up in a sleeping bag, freezing my butt off. But, it I find it odd. I find it really odd that they would say, okay, something happened to them. Well, they're trying to make it sound like something happened to them days later. No, they were found days later, but obviously something happened to them on day one because neither one of them made it back to the truck and neither one of them went home. So
Yeah.
I found it very strange.
Yeah, and the pictures they showed of the
I'm gonna grab
area
my
that they were
charger.
in, there was snow on the ground. There was snow on the ground, so you can follow your footsteps back. You know what I mean? Especially if you're just gone for a couple hours during the day. If you got to be back in Oregon, 2.5 hours south of where you're at looking for Bigfoot, you're going to know that you got to get out of there to get home for your dinner party while it's still light. You got to get out of there while it's light to make it to wherever you got to go. So it's really odd that this happened to these gentlemen. And the thing that I'm trying to figure out is whether or not the families have been able to see, their loved ones that passed away out there. Have they been able to see the bodies?
Well, and that's something that I'm surprised hasn't been followed up on because the names haven't even been released yet.
Right.
You know, I
Exactly.
mean, I don't know where the names are, or not where the names are. They're with the people, but I don't know why they haven't released the names of these gentlemen yet publicly regarding this. Now, obviously, people know. What I'm surprised with is that the names haven't flown around the Bigfoot community on any of the Facebook pages or anything like that. But
Yeah.
Jackie, I think you bring up good points, even though I do think that this was probably people not prepared. Maybe they were only going out for a couple of hours and, snow, rain, whatever the conditions may be, may have trapped them there. Maybe there was an injury, who knows? We really don't know the situation, but I do find it a little bit interesting that we haven't learned who these people are yet.
Well, not only have we not learned who they are, but what are the odds of both of them dying? That's just what I find so odd. Now, if it was one and then the other one was like, hey, listen, this is what happened, okay, maybe understandable. But the very first day and they go up there, okay, if you get up there and it's freezing and you're like, hey, it's too cold for us to be here, go home. But I find it really odd, and I don't think that they would wander off into the freezing cold if they weren't prepared somehow because they fully planned on going. It was a plan. Their family knew exactly where they were going.
And
So I just find it strange.
I'm just going to mention too, on top of all of this, this area in the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, there's not a lot of reception as far as cell phones are concerned in that area. Unless you get up to a higher elevation, you can ping off of Trout Lake and get a signal through Trout Lake with your phone, but you have to get up there, a little bit to be able to do that. So most likely they were in an area where they just did not have cell service. People have been asking, well, why
Yeah.
didn't they call for help and this and that? And it's there's some dark places back in there. Definitely is.
Yeah.
Do we know the official location of where this happened?
Generally speaking, southwest corner of the Gifford Pinchot National Forest.
And another thing I said to Lee, and I don't know if you guys talked about it when I ran off to grab my charger, but another thought came to me is, we don't know what their intentions were of being there for such a short period of time. And, what if, let's just say, we don't know, I have no idea, I don't know why they were there, but let's just say they didn't have good intentions of going. What if they had seen something prior in the area? Maybe they are the type of people who think like, well, maybe if we shoot one, we can take it home or we can have proof or well, I don't know. I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying the thought came to mind like, what if they had weapons? What if they shot at something? I don't know. I'm just saying I find it really strange.
Yeah. It's bizarre since so many people have had, sightings in that area over there. And this is the first time I've ever heard of anybody just passing away like this in that general area. There's been people that have been lost and not found and some other
Yeah.
things, but usually it's multiple days of searching for people. And
Yeah.
not somebody that goes and dies the first day. It's just unheard of, really, unless you fall through a lake.
I mean, but there's so much that could be happening, that we just don't know the situation. That's why it kind of bugs me why they've been so vague on this topic. Okay, was it because they were out looking for Bigfoot? Was it because it was Christmas and they don't want to upset the family too much? Could one of the two pointed a pointy stick out at one and then themselves? I mean, we don't have a lot of information at this time.
Mhm.
The one thing that I will say is, if we want to put some tinfoil on this situation, maybe they're vague because something did happen with a Bigfoot or a mountain lion, or I don't know if there's grizzly bears in that area, but definitely black bears.
Yeah.
Black bear. An
I'm
occasional
going to agree
brown.
with that, really, honestly. I really do have a gut feeling that I just feel like something more has happened and they don't want us to know the names because, like, what if they were mauled? What if, they're unrecognizable? I don't know. We don't know the circumstances because they won't tell us. They're just leaving. It's like all these holes in the story. And the fact that the family claims that they went out looking for Sasquatch, okay, specifically use that word, it just makes you wonder what happened to them. Because I just really honestly do not believe for 1 second that two grown men at that age are going to go out unprepared. I just don't.
I think it depends on the situation, though. I mean, I found myself at times going out in the forest saying, damn it, I should have packed this, should have packed that. Even like on Christmas Day, my dad has never seen a moose with its rack on its head. Never seen a bull moose. So every time he comes up here, we go into the forest looking for a bull moose. And I look at the vehicle that I was driving. Yes, I had lots of gas. Yes, it's a newer vehicle. Yes, we're going into an area where we let people know which direction we were going. Yes, I had a lighter on me because I always carry a lighter on me if I'm in the forest. No, I did not have any blankets. No, I didn't have a spare change of clothes. Had my pointy sticks.
Yeah.
But I mean, for as of anything else, though, I wasn't prepared for the elements because I was like, oh, I'm just going out for a couple of hours and then going home.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right thing or the wrong thing? Probably it's the wrong thing to do. Even though I know those roads like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think it's weird that it's both of them gone. Now, if, like I said, maybe the older gentleman, something happened only because he's older. I'm saying this, but let's just say something happened to one and not the other. We wouldn't even be talking about this.
Right. The other thing that
we
comes to
wouldn't
mind,
have this conversation. Nobody would be talking about this.
the other thing that came to my mind is, well, what if something happened to their vehicle and they had to try to hike out of there some way and they thought that they could take a shortcut? I mean, you never know. Maybe that's a possibility and we just haven't heard that yet, that there was something wrong with the vehicle.
That we don't know either.
Right.
But I mean, how far do you take it?
Yeah.
How far do you take it? We're going to move on to another story here. This one we get from Creepy Acres, and they're today in Creepy History. On January 3rd, 1878, in Globe Valley, North Carolina, the McKean County Miner, a newspaper from Smethport, Pennsylvania, reports several men prospecting in a remote area encountered a peculiar specimen of humanity. It stood 6.5 feet tall, which was a giant in those days, had broad shoulders, looked ape-like arms or long ape-like arms, was covered in dark brown hair. Oh, I thought they were talking about random guy there for a second. Though its face was smooth, from its head flowed long, dark red tresses. Well, maybe it is random guy without a haircut. Cautiously, they approached this ape man, but uncertain what to do when they stopped 20 feet short. As they debated, one man, hoping to scare it off, suddenly leaped toward the hairy humanoid, yelling. Instead, it defiantly stepped forward, pounding on its chest, then bounded off at an inhuman speed. The men gathered weapons and tracked the beast to a cave near the Blue Ridge Mountains, historic Blowing Rock. There they found a bed of leaves and the bones of many small animals. However, they never saw the hairy man-ape again. It remains unidentified. Talk about a classic Sasquatch story, Jackie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Well-
really cool. It's funny. I heard a story this morning about, now this was back in the 60s, and it's a couple from England, and you really don't get a lot of sightings or stories coming from England when it's regarding anything to do with Bigfoot. Most people over there don't even know what Bigfoot is. If you ask them about Bigfoot, they just say, "What is that? I don't even know what that is," unless they've seen some kind of TV show. And this couple claims that they saw something. It literally maneuvered their car, like took over their car and pushed them off the road onto this like grassy area. All of a sudden, this the woman claims it was about a 6.5 foot, very tall, skinny man looked inside her window, just kind of comes over to her and looks inside the window. And she said there was like this very strange orb kind of floating around the front of the car, and it stood there, put its hand on top of the car and looked at her. And they both said, the man and woman both said, that it had pink eyes. And now I've heard interesting stories about people claiming that, like, they call it the Nordic Bigfoot or Nordic giants or something, where they'll have the pink eyes. Have you guys ever heard of that before? With the pink eyes? I hadn't either.
That is a new one
She
on me.
said it scared her out of her mind, and her husband was going to get out, and she screamed at him, "Don't you dare get out of this car." And so the creature went around to the back, put its hand on the other side and looked inside and stared at her husband. And she said it scared them so bad they didn't know what to think. They felt like it was an hour long. She said, "I'm sure it was only minutes, but it felt like forever." And as the creature decided to walk away, like, they got control back of the car, but at the moment of where it was sitting and the creature was looking at it, they had zero control. They couldn't take off. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't do anything. It was like the car just came to a complete dead. It was just like not working, not moving. They couldn't even like get the doors to like lock or unlock. And she said the second it walked away, they saw like a cigar like style shaped odd thing just kind of float off into the sky with this creature. And they claim still today, they say, "This is what we saw." And she said she got a phone call. Someone called her the very next day. I don't know how in the world anyone knew about it. She said they didn't tell a soul. But someone called her and said, "You'll be getting a phone call from someone from the government and a gentleman will be coming to your house. He'll be dressed in such and such in this kind of car, like basically like we see on the movies, right? And still to this day, they're claiming the story is like, this is what happened. This is what we saw. So it's very strange. The story that you were just talking about reminded me so much of like what they saw with this 6 foot creature and the way the body was shaped and the eyes and everything. But I had never heard in all the years that I've been doing any kind of paranormal stuff, have ever heard of anything that had pink eyes before. But her and her husband knew, like, this is what
I've
happened.
heard,
And
I've heard of Lee Strauss having pink eye.
That's the truth too. Oh yeah,
you know how you get pink eye.
that's because he farted on my pillow.
Stay away from other people with pink eye.
I totally broke wind on your pillow, Lee, even though I don't know where you live. Yeah, that's logical. That's logical right there.
It's the one you sent me.
Keep that pillow away from Las Vegas. That's all I'm saying. Wash your sheets. But you know what? As we got about a minute to go here regarding that whole monster story, but it is a very, very classic type story because that same story happened at Ape Canyon in Washington State
Yeah.
at Mount St. Helens. It happened with Albert Ostman here in British Columbia. You know, that 6, 7, 8 foot tall creature that's very ape-like because they're going to call them apes. They didn't know what they were back then.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to draw a parallel between the Sasquatch and the apes. And that's just a very broad point that we have to remember in those older reports. And I love it. I absolutely love those old school stories like that. Jackie Harmon, thank you, my dear, for coming on
welcome.
the show. As we will say good night to you and extra small Lee Strauss. Talk to you guys next week on Spaced Out Radio. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Rocket in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up with the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elgin, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
Don't make a mistake. We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, now I got to figure out how to do this. So I press that. All right. And then we need to drag an image here. What a detail. Publish. Okay. Why is it not allowing us? What the fuck? Publish. I'm going to get really pissed off here in a second. Really pissed off here. All right. On that note, people, because I'm going to get pissed off and I'm really tired and cranky and sore, going to call it the night. But thank you to Richard, Walter, Jeff, and Area 53 for the super chats tonight. Sweet Robbie G will be in the house. He's got tomorrow night Reed Summers on the show. And that's really good. That's going to be a good guest. Fun guest. So make sure you tune in Saturday and Sunday night for Sweet Robbie G. And for the rest of you, we'll see you on Monday, where my guest is going to be JK Ultra, Aliens and Interdimensional Phenomena. We'll talk to you then, everybody. Have a good night. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.